Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Business from the Bass Boat on the Serious Angler Network. Guys, tonight we've got an awesome show lined up. I wanted to first give a little bit of news here. So I will be fishing the Toyota Series on Lake of the Ozarks. I'm actually was supposed to leave tomorrow. We're recording here on a Wednesday. This will obviously go that Monday after. So I will be out next week, but excited for that. It's a frozen Lake of the Ozarks. Did well there last year when it was that cold, so hoping to kind of repeat there. Definitely could be different. I am missing out on the Classic with Andy and Bailey. Excited that they're going to be at the Classic in full force with that. So if you are going to the Classic, go say hi to them. Excited for that. And we have, of course, our fantasy fishing show related to the Classic and everything with that. But without further ado, we're going to bring in a guy who is trying to change an issue that we definitely have as tournament anglers, especially at that national level, kind of that AAA level, I would call it. So I'm excited to bring in Luke with Sidepark Fishing. Cool story. I saw some stuff about this flying around on Facebook, and I messaged him, and he had already been talking to Bailey about some different things on a show. And so I'm excited to get him on the business side and talk about kind of this whole idea. Let's go ahead and bring Luke in. Luke, how are you, man?
I'm good, Adam. How are you?
Doing well. I'm trying to stay warm, but overall doing well here in Colorado.
Yeah, man, I got the same problem as you over here.
Yeah, and so you're somewhere East Coast, right?
I am, yeah. I'm originally from New Jersey. Right now, sort of living in Maryland. I spent most of last year really traveling around and fishing, not really living much of anywhere. But I'm stuck up here until I can hopefully relocate down south somewhere.
Man, I know that feeling. I have an Excel file, of course, name of the show, Business from the Bass Boat, of like places where I would want to live based on fisheries and tournaments and all that stuff. So I completely understand that side of things.
Yeah, Tennessee is at the top of my list right now, but we'll see. We'll see where I end up.
Heck yeah, that's on with the Classic going there next year. My goal is to bring the girlfriend to the Classic. And then also maybe take a little extra time and
go sell her on it.
That's you got to do that. That's the name of the game. Yeah, no, that's a cool place. But dude, so well, first of all, I'm excited, really excited to get you on a Sidepark Fishing. But first, I wanted to talk about kind of your background in fishing, tournament fishing, everything with that. But where did it kind of start for you from a fishing side of things? And then where did it kind of turn into a tournament deal and that kind of a route?
Sure. I've loved fishing ever since I was a little kid. I guess I need to thank my parents for initially getting me into it. I'm not really sure where the tournament bug originally started, but I know in nursery school they asked me what I wanted to be, and I said a bass master. So obviously, from a very young age, it was sort of ingrained there. And I had pursued that route a lot. After high school, I thought that's, what I wanted to do. So found myself fishing some Opens and Toyotas, which I guess were Coast Series or whatever they called them back then, and was definitely underprepared and way over my head, and sort of had to step back a few times, and found myself dabbling in the Opens and the Toyotas over the past decade, really. And last year I actually fished the NPFL as well as the Central Opens and a bunch of other BFLs, sort of traveling around the country, at least giving it a legitimate shot at trying to do it full time.
Yeah. Well, I think that's an important thing that we were talking before the show there, talking about last week's show with RMP, but with Russell. And I think that there's a lot of that goes on and people don't realize it, especially, and this is the same kind of thing, right? Like I went from fishing in high school, fishing in college, to then jumping into the Toyota Series last year and being like, wow, this is a lot, and that kind of a thing, and taking those steps back. And you see some guys, a great example would be Spencer Sheffield, who is absolutely incredible angler. He took a step back, right? And then got kind of finances figured out, all that stuff, and came back harder than ever. Talk a little bit about that, I guess, or some of those times where you had stepped back and then went forward. I mean, how did that kind of line up for you when you jumped out of that higher level of competition?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of routes to being a quote unquote professional angler. One of the ways is to do it on the water. Other ways are to sort of do it through the business aspect. And I think the closer you get to obtaining it, the more you realize that there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and things aren't really what they appear to be, at least as you're coming up. And it's really a more difficult task to do at a full-time, basis than I think people realize. So a lot of these guys are business owners and have other sources of income and aren't really profiting as full-time anglers. So I think when you start to see that, you need to realize that you need at least some sort of backup plan, or at least stabilize yourself, because we all know way too many people have gone broke, or ruined relationships, or all sorts of things trying to make this dream possible. So,
Yeah.
I found that even co-angling is sometimes a great way to learn, and until you really get the high-paying sponsor, it's a really difficult thing to obtain. You really can't do it off the tournament winnings itself. So,
I agree. There's got to be that balance, and I think that you either have the route of and it's hard to compare to like the 1%ers, right? Like the Polinics or the people, but I mean, they're the people that go all in when they're 19, right? Like that's a different situation, because you haven't started kind of these obligations later in life, or maybe you don't have the goals, or you haven't had a job where you're like, hey, wow, I actually get a paycheck here versus, I mean, it's different when I think that one of the best things that laid out is I was talking to a buddy of mine who fishes around the country and owns his own business. And he's like, the difference is I don't go into a job expecting like as we're talking about with side pot fishing, but a 1 in whatever chance to get paid. Like when I go to work, it's like I'm not taking the job unless it's a 95% chance I'm going to get paid. and in fishing, it's not that way.
No, it's about a 20% chance that you're going to break even. 80% chance you're going to lose money. So
exactly, you got to have those kind of systems in place, or like you said, build a business and have that,
or just be like a true statistical outlier, or just an absolute freak on the water. So I'm not one of them, clearly.
Same with me, man. I'm the same way. No, I learned that a while ago, but but there is something to be said for the guy that stays in and works hard and figures out a way to make it happen too. So
Yep.
Sweet, man. Well, let's talk a little bit about last year for you. You said you jumped into the NPFL. They're about to kick off their stuff this week, I believe, and then some of the Bassmaster Opens. But what was that like actually jumping in? I mean, was that your first year of full time? I mean, realistically, that's a full time season.
Yeah, it was, and I really treated it that way. I had sort of sold my house and kind of cashed out, and didn't really have any responsibilities. And I built a bed in the back of my Suburban, and pretty much just lived out of the truck. I mean, when I started to do the math on it, I think it's cheaper to almost stay fishing than it is to, say, drive back 12 hours to and from and spend all that gas money. If you can sort of mitigate like the hotel costs and sort of your other living expenses.
Yeah.
That's sort of coupled with the fact that I'm from the Northeast and I have a lot of experience up here, but my experience in, say, Florida, Texas, Alabama is all limited. And that's where the heart of the industry is. So I felt like I really just needed to spend some time fishing those areas, even if I wasn't fishing tournaments specifically. So I fished the NPFL, I fished the Opens, and then I sort of, penciled in the open weeks with BFLs and other tournaments to just kind of go through the motions and learn the lakes. And I will say it was an absolutely great experience. I've always had the dream of being a pro. And even if I spent more money than I won last year, I still feel like I lived the dream as a pro angler, and got to really see what the lifestyle was absolutely like. So,
yeah, man,
zero regrets about any of that. So I'm happy with the way it all worked out.
Heck yeah, I think it's important to do that, and I think too in life, like it's like you almost and again, this has nothing to do with what you might do in the future professionally or whatever that becomes as an angler. But like, if you never try, if that's your dream and you never go and try that thing, you're always going to be stuck wondering. And that's almost worse in my eyes, of like, if you do have your regular day job and you're just always thinking about what if I tried that? And even if it fails, at least you went and tried. And I'm not saying you failed, but you understand what I'm saying. It's like going and putting yourself in the ring.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I feel good about it. I mean, I finished 33rd angler of the year, so I can say that I'm a slightly above average angler and not much more than that. But, at least I tried. So,
No doubt. And how was it? I mean, had you spent much time in the South or kind of central part of the country's fishing previous to that, or mostly all up in the
I
Northeast?
started fishing down there a little bit more, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but not nearly as much as I had spent last year. No.
Gotcha.
I actually I'm pretty proud of it. I put 488 hours on my motor last year, which I
Wow.
know for most people, that's about 10 years of use. So I see most of these guys that were pros and they're selling their boats and they have like 150 hours on it.
Yeah. 180.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, how are you fishing full time and only putting 150 hours on your boat? But I was literally just fishing every day, so.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I bet you learned, I mean, exponentially because of that.
Absolutely.
Just by
Absolutely.
fishing every day. That's wicked. Because that's what you see like guides, right? Like you see guides boats that put 400 something hours on
Yeah.
or that kind of a thing. But you're right. Like I see a lot of pros listing their boats and it's like 150 to 200 hours.
Yeah. And then guys are talking about how they scanned all day and, practice dawn to dusk. And I'm like, that doesn't add up,
Yeah. Right. And well, I mean, there's also kind of the phenomenon I think about like when guys are coming up, there's definitely different types of anglers, right? Like there's guys who are John Cox and fish literally everything they can.
Yeah.
And then you've got guys who are like, I do better when I focus on a series, or like there's a lot of elite series guys, right, that have no aspirations to fish an additional open or
Right.
whatever else. Like they're fishing 9 tournaments. And like you said, I mean, I fished last year the most full time that I've ever fished, and that was a Toyota series, a ridiculous amount of team tournaments, but I was gone 9 weeks out of the year. And that's an elite series season. And I was like,
Yep.
dang, that's kind of crazy. And it was hard for me to juggle work and kind of mix this combo up. But like that's what got like the difference is some of those guys, I mean, like you said, created a business, or if they got to that point where they're high enough, they're only fishing 9 weeks out of the year. It sounds pretty good to me. Or as far as like not having to do a bunch more outside. Obviously, there's more to that, but anyways,
fishing such terrible work.
yeah, exactly. But that sounds like a great experience. What are your kind of plans? I know, and we will get into Sidepark and everything for this or your new startup. But what is your plans for this season, fishing wise, if you've got any?
Yeah, I'm registered for the Northern Opens as a boater. Of course, I'd love to make the Elite Series, but we all know just how difficult and daunting of a task that really is.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to try, just like everyone else. I might jump in a couple Toyota Series or local BFLs, but I think my objective more is to sort of push the business and fish other events, sort of maybe other areas of the country where I don't have as strong of a network to sort of build that presence. So I'm actually fishing my first tournament of the year this upcoming weekend. I'm going to Lake Lanier for a BFL, which is somewhere I've never fished. I really don't know a whole lot of people, but I'm looking forward to shaking a lot of hands and introducing myself to a lot of people and letting them know at least that I'm the face of the business.
Yeah,
so pretty much still fishing as much as I can.
Yeah.
I will say that I'm always trying to expand. And I think last year taught me that there's a lot to learn sort of outside of your comfort zone. So I've grown unenthused by fishing in the region where I'm most accustomed to. So I like going new places. And I think that that's the best way to sort of push the envelope and really like push the learning curve and try and better yourself as an angler. So
no doubt. I think that's really important. I think a lot of guys get stuck fishing their same areas, but and it's just a cool experience. You meet a bunch of really, really cool people on the road and guys chasing it and good people, it seems, anyways. In the industry.
Yeah, everyone does things differently. You learn something regardless. So
exactly. As far as I guess let's just get right into Sidepark itself. I mean, where did this idea stem and how long did it take? I'm curious, just because I think your website is awesome and everything right now with Sidepark, but where did it all start? And then how long did it take to actually launch it?
Yeah, it started a few months ago, really with just my own frustrations, looking at schedules, thinking about, what I was going to fish this year and what options there are. And you start to do the math on some of these tournaments, and most of the big options out there are between 70 and 80% payback, sometimes even lower. I don't want to get too specifics because I haven't done every single piece of math out there, but most of them are in that range. And when you start to factor in the travel expenses, rising gas prices, just the cost of fishing in general, I mean, it really becomes a poor financial decision to fish a lot of these tournaments. I mean, you have to look at it as almost just like disposable income rather than any sort of investment or that you're going to win it back, because really, if you do fairly well and you finish in the top 10% of the field, you're only getting enough to cover your expenses. So, a tournament with 100 people really has like 3 guys that are actually going home with any sort of profit or money. So, I just sort of got frustrated with the options that were available. And I thought that there had to be like a better alternative. So I sort of got to thinking and had the concept in my head. And then one day just sort of woke up and decided to take some actions. So.
Yeah. And that's such a true thing. When you break down the percentages of paybacks, and it's different too, right? If there's additional contingencies like qualifying for the Elite Series or a championship, there's different side deals in there. But on just a strict per tournament basis, you're right. The majority of the time, it's a 70 to 80% payback. I think the only side note there would be some smaller team trails where there's a good payback generally, or there's a situation that's similar to, and we'll get into what Sidepod exactly is, but where you can throw additional 100% money back or close to that sort of a situation. And as we were talking earlier, those 1%ers, those crazy guys with natural talent, it's a different game than with everyone else. Like if they're always going to be in that 10% and sometimes they're going to be in the 1%, it's a different route than everyone else looking at odds going into a tournament. But let's get into exactly what it is. I mean, I think it's got a perfect name. It says exactly what it is, but how does Sidepot work?
Sidepot, I try to make it as simple as possible. I try to alleviate some of those like barriers of entry and those obstacles that really just, tick you off as a customer or maybe like dissuade you from doing something. So Sidepot is pretty simple in the sense that you can go onto the website. It's on a per tournament basis. It's not for a particular trail or a division. And you pretty much purchase your entry to the Sidepot. Everything is organized by tournament trail and then division and then individual date. So you pretty much just purchase an item, add it to your cart. And then when you purchase the item, I get all of your information, like your shipping info and whatnot. And then I add that into my database where if you're the winner, for example, I have a way to contact you and then, mail you your check.
Very cool. And so really it's a way to increase your percentage payback. Again, you have to do well against the other people who are in the side pot, but you throw in X amount of dollars based on if it's a Toyota series, a BFL, whatever level of fishing you're in. And then you're competing against the other. It's a contingency program, right? As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. It's really no different than any other contingency program. You're competing within in a smaller group within a larger group. And whoever is the highest placing finisher within that smaller group would win the prize. So, for example, we've had someone finish in 40th place and win the side pot. Even people who finish in, say, 20th or 15th place, usually their side pot check ends up being bigger than their actual tournament check is.
Wow. So I could especially see that. Like, I mean, BFLs are a great example, right? Like, obviously there's incentive there to make the BFL All-American, but that's also a really tough shot. But you have, generally speaking, a low payout unless you're a Phoenix boat owners or that kind of a situation overall, the way it's structured. And some people are happy with that. Some people aren't. It's your choice to fish it or not. But with side pot, right, it gives you that additional chance if you want to buy in.
It does. I think it really changes, like, say, the BFL price point in particular, because that's a tournament level where you could win $3,000 to $6,000 generally, maybe up to 13 if you own a Phoenix boat. But now, if we get good participation, you're looking at winning an additional $4,000 to $8,000 with the side pot, in addition to the 3 to 6 that you'd be making with the BFL. Which brings you up to about $14,000 for a Saturday tournament. And then, if you own a Phoenix, you could potentially win $20,000 on a Saturday for what would only be a $300 entry fee total. $200 for the main tournament and then $100 for the side pot. So,
yeah, well, it gives a guys who are interested in competing in that an additional option. And like you said, I mean, especially like at the BFL, it's your local derby. It's you're already spending 200 on the entry fee. It's another 100, and it's that lower level, right, of a entry fee, but it's still got a great payout.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys, when they talk about what they're investing in a tournament, they look at the entry fee and they say, "Oh, well, I'm spending $200 in this tournament." Well, when you factor in, the gas, the lodging, all these other expenses, you're spending, say, $600 to win potentially $3,000. So now you can invest $700 instead of $600 and basically double your winnings. So you're looking at 10 to 20% more investment generally, with up to 100% more potential revenue. So from a business standpoint or from a number standpoint, it's kind of a no-brainer when you start to break it down.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it's a little different if you're fishing a tournament just to say qualify for that next level and you're not really in it for the money per se. But, I think whether it's guys' egos or their pockets, they're in it for the money. So at least half of them are.
At least half of them. That's right, man. I like that. No, I mean, like ROI, right? Like return on investment. If you're looking at it as an investment, I think you're right. I think a lot of guys.
This is the absolute smartest, best ROI you can get in tournament fishing at 90% on your money.
Yeah. So that's the payback is 90%, right? So
90%. Yep. And then I'm eating the credit card fees on my end. So I have to pay all those fees, but I'm not charging them to the consumer because I just know that that's irritating. And then it sort of throws off your 90% number. So then it would be less. So
sure.
And there's no memberships or anything like that. So some of them have actually been paying out higher just as sort of a novelty, just to sort of get the business going. But 90% minimum always guaranteed.
Very cool. Very cool. So that 90% always guaranteed is going back to the anglers, which is an incredible payout compared to your average tournament. And then that 10%, obviously, like you said, credit card fees, your time, all this stuff with Sidepark. That's the part that Sidepark's taking, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah. I have to do all the tax work. Anyone who wins over $600, you have to submit a W-9 to me, and then I'll send you a 1099 at the end of the year, just like any other tournament circuit. I mean, it's fully legitimate in that sense. So
yeah, no doubt that it's administrative stuff. And then obviously building out the website, talking to people on the phone, calling. I think that's completely fair. And I think it's necessary. As far as the current circuits right now, obviously we are in the heat of it. Derbies are starting up. We've got Toyota Series going on, everything going on. What tournaments are available for Sidepark currently?
So I currently have it built out for the BFLs, all I believe 22 divisions, all of the Toyota Series, all of the Bassmaster Opens, boater and co-angler divisions for all of those. I've had quite a few questions so far. Some people seem to be uncertain if the boaters and the co-anglers are in the same category. They're different categories, different payouts, just like the tournaments themselves. I do anticipate within the next week to be branching out pretty heavily into the kayak sector. I've already had a couple requests for that, and I think that's just like a perfect lineup. I've already built it for the ABA New York division because I've had some of those guys inquire, and I know that there's some interest for some of these team trails, but I have not set it up on the website yet.
Gotcha. Very cool. Yeah. Now, obviously, the co-angler boater side, it's just the same principle. Just the co-anglers are maybe paying a little bit less because their entry fee is less, but it's the same situation. You're adding into your Sidepark. Trying to
it is. Yeah. For the BFL, I left it $100 entry fee for both the boaters and the co-anglers.
Okay.
I just felt like as a co-angler, you still have a lot invested. I mean, people want to talk about how that's the more affordable route, but you're still traveling, you're still spending all these other like miscellaneous expenses. So,
no doubt.
And the side pot becomes really significantly larger than the main pot when you start to look at some of the example payouts. So I think as a co-angler, I think it's even a better deal,
Yeah, for sure. Well, what I might do real quick here, let's see if I can share my screen just with the website. I wanted to pull up kind of some of the example payout. Let's see. Okay. I'm not like Bailey with this. I don't 100% have it all figured out. There we go. Okay. Let's share this window. So we've got our side pot here, website. So our buy-ins for the NPFL 500, same with the Opens and Toyota Series, all on the boater side.
Yeah, I have gotten some feedback on that. I mean, guys, feel free to shoot me a DM or contact me some way. Had some people tell me they think it should be $300 on the boater end, not $500. But I feel like still, at a $1,700 or $1,800 tournament, you're there for over a week. Guys, $500 really isn't a lot compared to your $3,000 overall investment. So,
sure.
I think it'll just take some time, but we will see.
Yeah, and like you said, you can adjust, and you're taking guys' feedback. So, now I'm going to look at the example payouts here. So if we can get, here we go. All right, nice. You got a little, what is that, like a husky jerk in the background there?
Yeah, something like that.
I like it, man. So on the boater side, based on 200 entries in a Toyota Series, or the NPFL, you're looking at an additional $40,000 payout, which is crazy.
Which is pretty much the same as the first place payout, in an Open, except with a third of the entry fee, basically.
Literally
less than a third of the entry fee.
Gotcha. And obviously based on 100, and that number is going to go down if you've only got 50 guys, right? That number obviously would be decreased for that specific tournament. But the goal is to eventually try and get as many guys as possible at these events.
Yeah, I think realistic goal is 50% participation. I think it could be higher than that. But look, I've had some smaller sample sizes. If you have 9 boaters getting an event, it's pretty easy to win a tournament with 9 guys, right? Well, first place is $810. $810 in a BFL is pretty much what, third place or better? Yeah. Which means you have to beat 150 guys to win that same amount of money. So, even on a small sample size, I think it's worth it for guys.
Yeah, well, that's kind of a cool deal too, right? Those smaller sample sizes, you could just run it with, not just run it, but like you could have your house of buddies with that, right? It's kind of like your small group trying to compete against extra on top of it.
You could, and I found it to be like, I'm a fan now because I see who's entered in it, and I'm watching these guys to see who's going to weigh in what on day 1 versus day 2, and who's going to beat who, and it's just ironic sometimes. We had someone today finish 39th and 40th respectively in the Toyota Series.
No way.
4 ounces apart is what's going to take home the side pot. So
that's really cool.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah, and so is it always paid to 5 places, or does that?
No, so it's paid just the top spot up to 10. So 9 and under is 1 spot. Okay. And then from 10 to 24, I'm paying 3 spots. And then over 25, we're paying 5 spots. I could see us adjusting in the future to pay maybe 10 spots at over 50 or 100.
Sure.
We'll worry about that when we get there.
Yeah. No, I like that. I'm curious, have you had any pushback from organizations at this point? Like you said, I think it's a contingency program, but has anyone reached out and said, hey, what are you doing here?
I have not. I wouldn't be surprised maybe if there's some chatter, but at the end of the day, it is nothing more than a contingency program. And it's also good for the organizations because it's another incentive or reason for people to compete in their tournaments. I'm not a competitor in the sense that I'm trying to steal individuals away from their tournaments. I want people to fish their tournaments. So, for me, this gives people extra incentive to fish an Open, to fish a BFL, to fish a Toyota Series.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's as far as like, it's not considered gambling because you're betting on you're not betting, but it's for yourself, right? Or like, I'm just curious from a legal standpoint, like, how did you kind of think this through, or is there even any concern there?
I think there's some maybe initial concern when you look at it, but it's really no different than running a fishing tournament, right? So we're just running a fishing tournament, except you're paying me through a website and it's run online. So I really don't see any difference there. If you had the ability to say place a side bot for someone else, or pay someone's buy-in anticipating them winning, or some sort of agreement, then that's like a gray area that might be considered gambling. But what we're doing now, I'm not really worried about it.
Yeah no, I get that. With the website, again, I think it's like done pretty well. How did you? I'm just curious on the back end of your side of stuff.
Yeah.
Did you kind of do some of this? Did you hire this out, like just from a completely
Man, I'm like a very hands-on person. I don't care if it's like mechanical, housework, car work. Like I try and do everything myself, and the business really hasn't been any different. I did all the stuff on the legal end as far as like getting the LLC and all the business and banking stuff. I got all that straight, and then I built the website myself. It took a lot of time. It wasn't that difficult. I'm not super tech savvy, but I know my way around a computer, and really just tried to make it as simple as possible. Because with the angling community, not everyone is hip to the trends and on their smartphone. So I wanted the old guy to be able to figure it out on his own.
Yeah, heck yeah, man.
And I think we succeeded with that. And I think it's pretty it's pretty simple, and no membership, no credit card fees, no tax, nothing like that. So
nice,
pretty clean.
Yeah, clean and easy. I like that, and I like everything's up front. Hey, it's 90% payback. You aren't having to like calculate what you're getting paid. Yeah. And one thing that I thought of, like you said, first thing I thought of when you thought of this or when you brought this up was the kayak stuff. I don't do any of the kayak stuff. Bailey does. I talk to him about it all the time, and I agree. I think it's a perfect niche deal there because all their stuff is online. It's all with apps, anyways. Everything is. There's no way in, right? Like it's all already that way. And I feel like it'd be an easy, just an additional thing for kayak guys to do.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy. I mean, I think the hard part was sort of building the system and laying the foundation there. And I think it's pretty easy to expand on it from here. The biggest thing is just sort of building my network and then also just building the trust. I feel like I have a fair amount of connections and know a fair amount of people. But not necessarily all over the country. Some divisions I don't have as strong a presence as others, and it's going to be hard to sort of get them started. I've had a few people, message me, DM me, the business account, my personal account, like, how do I know this is legit? Which is a totally real concern for something that's a brand new business that you're sending money to that doesn't really have a track record. Now I have some results on my website, so you can see it a little better, but yeah, I have no answer to that other than here's my track record. Here's where I'm going. I'm fishing a BFL next week on Lanier. The next week I'm on Norman. I'll be at the Classic. You can come shake my hand. I'm not hiding from anyone. I've seen plenty of crooks in this business, but I'm not one of them. So,
yeah, no, I think that's probably to me like the biggest hindrance, right? Is like it is a straight cash. Not cash, but obviously a situation where you are literally sending money to somebody.
Yeah.
And it is, and like you said, there's that concern there. So I think it's a good idea from an attack standpoint on your end of building face-to-face personal relationships and saying, look, here's the results. Here's the guys that have done it. Here's maybe some reviews of guys who have had success with this. And no, I think that's a good way to go about it because you're right.
I'm not hiding from anyone. I want to be as transparent as possible. So
yeah. As far as with the NPFL, I'm sure traveling last year, you had met with a bunch of guys. I mean, have you reached out to these guys on this, and do you anticipate some success from the NPFL guys in Sidepark?
I haven't focused there too much. I have talked to some of them, and I have had some of them reach out to me. I think there's definitely interest there. I think with their first event on Cumberland and the changing conditions, I don't think anyone's too confident in whatever they have going on where they want to get into Sidepark. Yeah. But I do anticipate there being some traction there towards the end of the year. Once again, when you look at your ROI, why would you not do it? So
exactly. And when is the cutoff to sign up? Because that's an interesting thought when you said with practice and stuff. Because what if I'm a guy, right, where I'm like for instance, I'm headed, and this will go Monday. I'll definitely already be there practicing, but Toyota Series Lake of the Ozarks, and I'm like, oh man, like I found them. Like, and of course, everyone knows that that's not necessarily guaranteed, but it's the last day of practice. Can I still sign up, or how does that kind of work?
Yeah. So I built the business, and my original structure and concept was that 3 days before the tournament, you would have to register. And then I would close registration on, say, a Wednesday night for a Saturday tournament.
Okay.
That means the majority of your practice, you really wouldn't know. What I found, though, is that just getting going, I don't have the people or the network to have to sign up in advance like that. So I've been temporarily extending registration until the night before, until midnight the night before, and we're probably going to operate like that for the next few weeks, I would think, until we really get the word out and people start signing up in advance. But right now, I don't have the following to close registration 3 days beforehand. So in the meantime, you're able to use that to your advantage, and that's definitely something that we, are open to feedback about. I think it goes both ways. You can use it to your advantage or disadvantage. So
for sure,
I think it levels the playing field a little more if we close it on, say, Wednesday beforehand. Mm-hmm. But I also know what the average fisherman is like, and they wait till the last minute to do everything. And there would be a bunch of guys Wednesday evening at 1 a.m. blowing up my phone. So
100%. No, that's exactly right. I was thinking that too. It's like, well, if I was being advanced, think about how much time and prep and everything you've got to do to leave.
You forget, so until it becomes routine and you just sign up for the tournament and then sign up for the side pot sort of automatically, I think we're going to sort of just adapt and extend it until the night of. Yeah,
I like that. Well, and I like to, man, that you're open to feedback, right? Like this game is so much organizations and then anglers and this and that.
Yeah.
And having
I am an angler, man. That's really all it is to it. And this was just stemmed from, just angler frustrations and concerns and how to make it better. This is an angler based and angler focused concept, which is great because I don't feel like I'm selling anyone anything. Of course I have to solicit you to tell you about my idea, but it's something that's helping you. I'm not trying to sell you some plastic worms. So I'm trying to put some cash in your pocket.
Yeah, it's a win-win. That's awesome. Man, I'm excited to kind of see just over time how this all expands, because I think that the really cool part with everything is that, like you said, once the technology is in place and you have a system and you have the trust and you have guys used to it, what's to say you can't expand it out west, man? At least out our way. I fish some of the western stuff and then I fish stuff in the central part, but the ABA, the American Bass Association ABA out here is a big deal, and I fish a lot of those. But then you also have Juan Bass, and you have these other organizations that get a good amount of boats, where I think guys would be interested, especially because one thing that I've always thought of is in tournament fishing, there's 3 levels of payments in my eyes. There's your BFLs, $100, $200 entry fees. You have then the Toyota Series Opens level, your $1,700 to $2,000 entry fees, which is a big jump there. You're talking a big gap. And then you have your elite level, your BPT, kind of that $5,000 range, where things get pricey. And I believe, what was the MPFL entry fee?
5,000. Same range.
Yeah, exactly. Where you got that heavy entry fee. So this kind of gives another option for those in betweens. I've always said, I love how a lot of team tournaments are a $500 or $1,000 entry fee. Yeah. Because it's in between, right? It's not your BFL where you're man, even if I win with all these boats, I'm not winning that much without side pot. And then you have that next level, and that's a big jump. You're going from spending, your, like you said, after your hotel expense, fuel, all that, maybe you're $500 on the weekend, $600 on the weekend, to now you're at, oh man, $2,000 entry fee plus a bunch of practice. You're looking at $3,000 in expenses for the week. And that's going from 500 to $3,000. That's a tough jump for a lot of guys who are not full-time, fully engaged in this.
Yeah, I agree. It adds a nice in between there. It elevates the level of competition, and it takes a Bassmaster Open, which you could win $50,000 in now, where I'm expecting us to get pretty good participation in those. If we get 200 people to sign up, you're now winning $90,000 for first place, which is as much as pretty much any other pro tour. And you will have invested $1,700 for your main entry fee and another $500 in your side pot. So for $2,200, you could in theory win $90,000, which would be, better ROI than any of those other pro tours we mentioned.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a really cool concept to me, and I'm excited to follow it along, and really, really good idea, man. I like it.
Thank you.
It's helping anglers, and that's
that's
the goal. That's always the goal. Well, dude, how we kind of like to wrap up every show. Well, first off, what's the best way to get folks to I guess, if folks are interested in side pot fishing, where are your platforms currently? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Sure. I think the website would be the number one spot to go to, sidepotfishing.com. We also have an Instagram and a Facebook where I share most things over there and do some more daily updates. Sidepotfishing@gmail.com is my email, and my personal cell phone number is 609-220-0075.
Nice.
I'm not hiding from anyone.
Personal numbers out there. Spam callers, everybody. Get after it. I'm just kidding. Anglers, though, no, that's great, man. It's good to be able to talk on the phone to people in today's world, especially with an online kind of style business.
Sure.
Well, with everything that you've done to build this to this point, what's your biggest advice to somebody building a business in today's world in the fishing industry? I mean, you've had some experience traveling the country with the NPFL, all this stuff. Through your experience this far, and obviously this is in your first season with all this, but what's kind of your what's your takeaway to say if someone was looking to build something, what would you tell them?
Probably just take it one step at a time. But take that first step. I think it's difficult. I think I've had other good ideas in the past where I've just been maybe too timid or afraid or thought, maybe not. But I think you really just need to sort of take that leap of faith. And once you get that feedback and enough people tell you it's a good idea, you need to just get fully invested. So, I'm pretty much working on this deal all day, every day at this point. And I'm going to continue to until I see otherwise.
Heck yeah, man. All in. I like it.
Yeah.
I think that's a good piece of advice. I think a lot of people sit on something forever. I know I sat on creating a podcast for 5-6 months, and I was like, all right, time to actually do this thing. And
it's intimidating, but the technology now makes it easier than ever, really. So
yeah, and you can learn everything
out there.
Yeah, and the platforms are there. No, for sure. All right. Well, now your 3 biggest: largemouth, spotted bass, smallmouth. Where you were when you caught them and what you caught them on.
Sure. 8-pound largemouth. I caught that on Shear and Harris, the only day I ever fished there in my life.
That's North Carolina, right?
That's North Carolina, yeah. I caught that on a DT10 crankbait.
No way. Cool.
I've never caught that many giant smallmouths because I haven't spent as much time at like Lake Ontario, Thousand Islands. But probably like a 5-pounder on Lake Champlain on a Super Spook Junior.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
And spots, I don't have a ton of experience with spotted bass. Probably a 3.5 on Lewis Smith Lake on a chatterbait.
Gotcha.
When the water was flooded up shallow.
Nice. Well, you're about to be headed what you said, Lanier, right? So
so I think I might break that 3.5.
Yeah, you'll probably break that one there, man. That's awesome. I like those big spots. They
pull.
Such pretty fish. Yeah, and they're feisty. Champlain, man, that's a dream of mine. I think I'm going to try and fish the Toyota Series this year, probably as a co-angler and just fly out there. But that place, man, I mean, I don't know, it just looks incredible to me.
It is. It's not like shooting fish in a barrel, but it's incredible.
Yeah, I just like the concept of having both the largemouth and the smallmouth play in derbies. I love places where that kind of happens.
I feel like I've always struggled. I love that element, but it adds a whole nother like decision-making aspect to it. Then you sort of have to, develop a game plan either based upon the species or both of them. And I don't know, I always seem to make the wrong decision.
Yeah. Gets too many variables in there. I get that. Well, I mean, you also have the other deal with that, right? Is the run, right? Ticonderoga is like 90 miles away or something, or how far is that? Isn't it?
I think it's probably 60. It might even be a little less than that. It's like an hour run if it's flat calm, which it never is. Right. And that honestly, from what I've seen, doesn't play as much as it has in
previous,
say maybe 10 years ago. So
yeah,
I think the smallmouth fishing has gotten better. I think they've gotten bigger, but I also think the fishing in general size in Ticonderoga has deteriorated a little bit.
Well, it's probably because all the derbies take them and
that's a long swim back.
The long swim back. I don't know how many are coming back. But are you normally there a smallmouth or a largemouth guy? I guess
I'm a largemouth guy. I really don't mesh too well with the smallies. I'll fish for them if I have to. But I grew up fishing tidal rivers. I love the current. I love the water moving up and down. Okay. Chesapeake Bay, Potomac River, Delaware River, that type of stuff. So
Man, get ready. You said you're in the Northern Opens, correct?
I am. Yep. I'm excited for that one on the Chesapeake. I'm actually a mile away from the boat ramp right now as we're
doing the
podcast. So
there you go.
Yeah.
So can you enter into Sidepark? Because
So
that would be interesting.
that is interesting, and I've actually consulted some other people. There isn't really a conflict of interest when you think about it, because it's not like I could cheat, right? Because I'd have to cheat in the tournament, right?
Yeah, sure.
But it might not look good if I'm winning my own side pot. I've had some people say, So maybe that's like on an individual basis to start. But I want to compete in my own side pot. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I wish we had.
Not even because I think I'm going to win it, but just because I think it's the best deal out there. So,
yeah, I like that, man. I like that. Well, if you get way down the road, and there is a gambling aspect of it, be a good pick in the Opens. I'd pick you on the side pot.
Thank you.
Title.
At least for that one on the bay, maybe not the other two.
I'm with you. No, well, very cool, man. Well, I wish you the best of luck with all this. I'm excited to follow it along and see how everything goes. May jump in myself on some of this. I think it's a great thing.
You better sign up for Lake of the Ozarks next week.
I know, dude. I know. Well, now that I know that, especially how you have until that last day, I'm like,
yeah, we'll see how practice is, right?
On myself 20 pounds. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Oh man. And like fishermen, I'm like, the boat's not even ready to go. I've got a day to get ready. It's just always last minute. But anyways, Luke, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate the time and everything related to Sidepark. I'm excited with all that. Wish you the best of luck in the Opens, the Northern Opens this year. There's a slight chance I may be up at Oneida during that Open and may fish it just as a co. If I am, I'll absolutely track you down, say hi, grab a beer or something.
Awesome.
But man, thanks for coming on, and I appreciate your time tonight.
All right. Thank you, Adam.
Absolutely, man.